So first of all, thank you very much for being with us today. I would like to know why in your intervention in Foro de Foros at La Granja, you were quite pessimistic about Spain, Catalonia, and also you mentioned Madrid. Why?
I'm preoccupied to a certain extent, first of all, because of the events in Catalonia. A problem which I've seen during my stay in Spain and before, an upcoming problem which has, in my eyes, been neglected to some extent by the central government, by others. We were concentrated in the past on the Basque problem, much less on the Catalan problem. But this problem was foreseen to come back in a certain moment. And I've been talking in my past as ambassador and as political advisor about federalism in Spain. I've been talking about this in the Basque country. It was high risk at that time.
What was it, the 80s or the 90s?
No, in my time as ambassador in Madrid. But the Basque people accepted this discussion. These were the people of PNV. They accepted that what I was presenting, ideas on a future federalism in Spain. Interesting fact, I repeated practically that speech in Catalonia, in Barcelona. Half of the people said, well, this is the approach we are waiting for, and the other half was against.
Okay, so...
And for me, I'm preoccupied by the fact that Madrid is not reacting or not acting in this field, instead of proposing what I call a solution to this. I've been talking last year with German investors in Catalonia and in Spain, and they are more than preoccupied because of the situation. Should they stay in Catalonia or not? Should they change the site of where they are, go elsewhere in Spain, or leave Spain even? And therefore, and Spain has done many efforts in the last years to stabilize its political and especially its economic situation. And should these efforts be in vain or not? What's going on? And therefore I'm still preoccupied at that very moment.
Let's talk about Europe. Are you also preoccupied, or you're happier with this?
Well, you can always tell to the people Europe is a mission impossible to some extent. If you look at the crisis of the last 10 years, of the loss of our capability in discussing about and acting in foreign and security policy, when you look at the crisis in the banking sector, which is not totally over, at a certain crisis in the field of economy and in finance, of our economic model in the different European states, you may say, and if you look at the rift between East and West, North and South, you may say it's mission impossible. But as a matter of fact, when you look at Europe, when you look from the outside, the perception is a bit a worst case. But the reality is a bit better than the perception. And therefore I'm a pragmatic optimist with regard to Europe, because it's not so difficult to look at the key chapters of what I call the European self-assertion. And when you look at these chapters, internal security, external security, and the economy, including the Eurozone, what people in Europe need is, first of all, confidence, security, and solutions. Mm-hmm. If you keep in mind these three words, re-establish confidence, second, what people want is security, and third, solutions. No more speeches, but not ideological approaches, but practical solutions to the existing problems.
Mm-hmm. President Macron in France is trying to give a boost to the French-German acts.
He's well done.
Yeah. Do you think he's done well so far?
He's been extremely courageous. Mm-hmm. Please imagine It's a new fact in Europe to try to win elections with Europe on the top. Never seen before, not in any other country, perhaps in smaller ones, yes, but not in any other big country. Europe has been on the top of a list of a campaign for an election. Mm-hmm. Therefore, Macron has taken all these risks, Europe our protector, and I think he is well done. And he has presented a certain number of ideas which will have to be discussed with our partners and allies. It's normal. The French think from time to time, if they have a concept, the others have to accept. No, it has to be discussed with the others, with Germany, with Spain, with Italy and the others. And I think he is well done. Mm-hmm. And we are in front now, I hope very much, of a window of opportunity, second half of 2018. If the Germans have again a government, we hope, till the Sunday, and to discuss, let's say, what I call a roadmap for Europe for the years to come. Mm-hmm.
Talking about this,
to underline Europe is back.
Mm-hmm. And talking about this roadmap, as you said, so three things that Macron is always mentioning are the Ministry of Finance, Eurobonds, and European Monetary Fund. What's your take on this? Are we going to see these on a midterm?
I take the last one.
Okay.
To develop the EMS towards a European Monetary Fund, I think it's the logic consequence of the economic and monetary union in Europe. This is the most important. To create a European finance minister, I don't know whether in, let's say, in the medium term, whether it's a necessary and the right solution. Why? If you think about who is a finance minister, what's this? The finance minister is the guarantor of your budget at home, of your national budget. But this European finance minister will not dispose of the budget of the European Union and of that one of member states. Therefore, please avoid things which do not represent the reality in Europe. Mm-hmm. And the same applies to the Eurozone budget. The Eurozone budget would be extremely complicated to establish such a budget. Who controls it? National parliaments or European Parliament? The Commission involved or not? The member states involved? How far not? What would be the subjects? Therefore, I would prefer to come back to an old idea, which has been a Spanish one, by the way, of Felipe González in the late 80s. He proposed and he developed the idea of a European Cohesion Fund, representing practically the same subjects or the same ideas than we are discussing today, than we need today. A sort of fund helping member states in difficulty or encouraging others who are coming out of a crisis. This was the initial idea of a cohesion fund by Felipe González, which has been used or abused, if you want, by the member states. Everyone wanted to have a bit of this fund. Let's come back to the sources. And Jean-Claude Juncker has proposed a certain number of ideas which are near to this basic idea. And I think there's a way, in my eyes, to establish a certain basic fund for Europe in order to help member states in difficulties or member states which are just coming out of difficulties.
And don't you think a common debt instrument would be the perfect way to do that?
I've severe doubts about this. And
I would like you to explain it to me a little bit.
As a typical German, if you want.
Yeah, okay.
If you explain to a German, the Germans will say, well, okay, we have done some efforts. When you look, for example, at the EMS, there is an obligation of the Germans or a guarantee of the Germans which is more than half of the German yearly budget. A guarantee given by the German by the German people and by the German state for measures, financial measures to help or to guarantee others in difficulties. And the Germans would like to control this, even in future. But what the Germans fear is to give a guarantee to a third country without controlling it. And therefore, this idea of a common instrument, of a common debt instrument, is being looked in Germany by what I call mistrust.
Yeah, it's too risky, right?
It's too risky for the Germans. Yeah. And this could be perhaps future in one day. But I don't see the necessity for the moment. We need some other steps. For example, we need a system for insolvency of a state. In Europe, we don't have this. In Germany, there's no guarantee of insolvency of one of the lender in Germany. It does not exist neither in the US. Why the hell, and the Germans say, when they look at the banking sector, should we guarantee the risky loans of Italian banks in Germany, in Italy, which is still too high for the moment, above 20%. In Germany, it's 2.5% or 3%, even if the German banking sector is not in an excellent health. Spain has done extreme efforts. We have not been helping Spain there, limited way, yes. But now we should guarantee Italy, or Greece, or Cyprus. Yeah. Where the Germans are reluctant is the Germans have in finance or in budgetary terms what I call other principles. Look at the German language. When I'm in Paris, the French tell me, well, the Germans should stop their policy of austerity. When you look at when you ask a normal German, do you know this word? Austerity, Austerität. They don't know the word, but they know the simple, classical word of the Germans of a balanced budget. Income and expenditure at the same level.
They're talking about Mr. Jens Weidmann for the ECB's presidency. I don't know if you have any information about who could be.
I don't have any information. It's clear the Germans would be in a position to have the presidency of a European Central Bank once upon a time. I remember in 1998, I said to my boss, to the Chancellor, the best possible candidate for the first president of the European Central Bank for its first years would be Hans Tietmeyer, the most recognized central banker in Europe at that time. And my Chancellor said to me, Bitterlich, you are perhaps right. He is perhaps the best, but it would be too much for the others. We have a central bank in Frankfurt. We have established a European Economic and Monetary Union on the basis of the German system. We have exported this. The Deutsche Mark has become European, if you want. But a German central banker now on the top would be too much. Let's wait for the right moment, when the time is ripe, when a German could become the president of a European Central Bank. The time could be ripe for this. But I don't know whether the others would accept this and would especially accept Jens Weidmann, who is an excellent central banker, but who is considered as one of the orthodox people. And I do not exclude that our neighbors and your neighbors, the French, could present a candidate too. I do not exclude. And the irony of history is the French candidate is not only French, he is at the same time German. He's born in Germany, his father is a Franco-German, he is a Franco-German, and he knows totally excellent, in an excellent way the two nations. He could be what I call the passeur, the man between the nations for the future. Let's wait and see. It's not for now, it's in 2 years to decide.
But this could shape monetary policy in a very different way. I mean, I'm thinking about Draghi's whatever it takes to save the euro. Now we are in a different picture, in a different path.
Mario Draghi has done in his pragmatic way an excellent job. And he has one advantage, Mario Draghi. Not as many other central bankers, he has been working in a real bank. He has not only been in a public finance ministry, he has been working for a bank, which is not the most beloved bank in Europe, but he has been working really in the real banking world. And in my eyes, Mario Draghi has done up till now an excellent job. And for me, he is the measure, if you want.
Well, someone who has already worked in the banking sector is our minister, Luis de Guindos, who will be the VP. So maybe a German or Franco-German head, and then a Spanish second.
Let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. Okay.
Political candidatures are always what I call a bit special, a bit sensitive. Let's wait and see.
I would like to know your take on populism. When Macron beat Le Pen, Europe was breathing with relief because populism, at least at that time, was stopped. But we have Italy now.
It depends what you mean by populism.
Well, I'm talking about AFD.
You mean extremism?
Extremism, yes.
Extreme
Cinque
right,
Stelle, I'm talking about AFD,
Mélenchon,
I'm talking about, Mélenchon, I'm talking about Le Pen. Yes. So people who are promising things that people can want to hear, but not with real solutions.
It's one of the most, on the one hand, interesting, at the same time, most difficult and challenging debates we have in front of us today. On the one hand, we are in Europe member states, nations, which are based on the principle of representative democracy. What are these extremists trying? Overcome representative democracy by what they call the political will of people. You observe the same, you mean this through referenda, through social media, etc. It's a challenge for our democratic systems on the one hand. The other side is we are in front of a growing rift between governments and people, governments and the economy, people and the economy and the economic system. And people want to see solutions on the one hand, not political blah blah. They want to see not only solutions, they want to be understood. They want to see politicians recognizing the real problems of people. I mentioned yesterday one story which I got from the German coalition talks. On the agenda, housing is one of the real problems today in Germany. We have not enough, and to a normal price, flats to rent. Therefore, they speak since months about a new impetus for housing. First debate in the morning was gender-neutral toilets in cities. Well, if you talk to people, to normal people, they do not understand any more politics. Let's come back to the subjects that people are really interested in. For example, people want to know if their working place, their employment is still secured, or if the new digital world is just pushing away their working place. They can't be replaced by a computer, by an electronic system, by artificial intelligence, etc. People want to know about the security of our working place. People want to see that the policy or policies are controlling movements who produce insecurity. For example, immigration. People want to see the state controlling or stopping immigration, doing what's really just. Look at the situation in Spain. I had last month a long discussion with one of the top people of our border control people in Europe, and they told me the pressure on the south of Spain has been never higher than today, and therefore Spanish people in the south want to see the Spanish government, the police, the interior people acting and offering clear solutions to their worries about security. This is the key. People want to see what are we doing in front of a society which is becoming elder and elder, with all the consequences. People want to see what I call that politics control and offer solutions. And once you leave these areas open, you open the room and the area for extremism, for populism.
Of course, but
there's the danger.
Yeah, but of course, politicians can work on that, but they don't have any answers because nobody has them. I mean, nobody knows the impact of AI.
Even if you tell openly to people, I don't have a solution yet for the moment. I have to develop it. My first steps will be 1, 2, 3. People say, okay, it's okay.
Europe is working on that?
Yes,
I mean, do you think they're working enough on that?
People have to explain it.
Yeah.
Our politicians have to explain much more than in the past what they are doing in words that people understand.
Not yet,
Europe should do much more on communication and on concentrating itself on essentials. Europe should, and Jean-Claude Juncker has done many efforts to this, reduce what I call its open space in the sense of dealing with secondary problems. Europe should concentrate really what I call on essentials in Europe. I take often in debates this old classical example that Europe has been trying to regulate the size of an apple. I don't know whether you know this story. We have been calibrating introducing sizes for apples in order to optimize logistics. People do not understand this. I regret. Europe should really concentrate what I call on essentials. What Europe has been done now to concentrate, for example, with a delay of 20 years on the control of our external borders. We should have done this much earlier. We've done nothing in the past.
We're behind the curve in defense and security matters.
No, we are looking for the first time at police cooperation, police and intelligence cooperation. We are not yet in the ideal world. We have done perhaps 30% of what's really necessary. You look at defense. Juncker's idea of a defense fund is a positive one for me. Just supporting, please, member states, go on.
And realistic? Do you think it's realistic?
I think
people will.
I think we will do it.
Join in. And as you have been an ambassador, you know diplomacy very well. Some diplomats of the record complain about this security problem. They say when we go to the meetings, some countries do not share information. It's very difficult to work together.
I know. It's difficult because they are in the past. They have been working together, what I call following the old Latin method, do ut des. You give to me an information and I give one to you. And information exchange should be today systematic and permanent. It should be normal to exchange information. I tell often the example that when you look at real border control or surveillance, even in the internal way, we have still too many weak points. And therefore, I think we will have to reinforce that cooperation. in order to find at an earlier stage terrorists or criminals. We have to be faster in this field. And I think we have created Schengen now more than 20 years ago. Open borders, all the people accepted. Marvelous idea, open borders. Spain joined us in 1990. Long reluctance of the others towards Italy. We resolved it in 97 only. But people accepted this marvelous idea of open borders. By the way, a Franco-German idea. But our expectation in the 80s was we need a certain balance. We open borders, but at the same time we have to reinforce the cooperation between police and intelligence. We need therefore a real system of exchange of information and of cooperation. When I proposed in 1990 to the French common border controls beyond the border of the 50 kilometers on both sides, they rejected it. Today it's normal. Mm-hmm. Today it's even normal with Poland, between Germany and Poland. It's normal. But we are not fast enough. We have to be faster in this field. And the Commission has to be much more, let's call it pushy in these fields to help the member states to find at the end of the day the right and the necessary solutions.
And what do you do with those member states who are not following the same rules? I'm talking about Hungary and Poland, for example. What do you do about those members?
We
cannot kick them out.
No. First of all, what we need with these member states is patience. And we have always to bear in mind, where do they come from? Please, Hungary and Poland, both. I take these two examples only, because you could add some others. Look at Romania, for example, or Bulgaria. Where do they come from? They rediscovered national sovereignty from 1990 on, after what I call having lived during at least one generation, if not two generations, under the Soviet system. They discovered. And it's normal, on the one hand, they have to go, what I call, through a period of rediscovery of national sovereignty, where they look at more at a national identity than at a European one. We need, at the same time, we have to help them. We have to assist them, to support them in building up political parties, a society, a responsible society, etc. We need patience to some extent. And at the same time, often I see we judge them more severely when we judge ourselves. I had long debates, for example, about the independence of the German judicial system. I could discuss with you about the Spanish judicial system, where people tell me it's not so independent as you think. Or the French. We accuse Poland because of their new system of the election of superior judges. Yes, I understand it. The Germans distribute judges among parties who are allowed to make proposals. I'm not so in favor. The French have another system. But let's say we need patience, and at the same time we have to try to help these countries to overcome, let's say, this period, this natural period, what I call of nationalism or of national identity.
I would like to finish this interview by talking about external attacks against European democracy, attacks to destabilize it, allegedly coming from Russia. And
we have an actual problem in Germany.
Well, I would like to know first your take on this problem, if we are prepared for dealing with it. And also, you were mentioning in your intervention yesterday that only Estonia and to a lesser degree another country, which I don't remember, had teams specialized on dealing with these matters. Could you develop this idea, please?
Cybersecurity is a new subject. And for me, the interesting case is that often states discover these problems with a certain delay. It's not a beloved subject. I'm not a specialist in this field. I'm in my family a specialist, who knows much more than the father. It's my eldest son, who is dealing with what I call information security. Beginning with your credit cards, beginning with your telephone, your computer, etc. I think states have for a long time underestimated these subjects. And you have others, and I include there the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, and certain of our Western secret services. I do not exclude that the Americans have been listening with great pleasure to what you have been doing in Spain, or the Germans, or the French, or others. Therefore, with regard to security, we have not done enough. And I remember when we introduced in the German Chancellor's office our first information system, the modern information system. Well, we should have bought at that time a real system. And I saw the same problem in the company I've been working for, and I was not feeling well with regard to security, and I asked my son to test the system for me, because he has been working for a big American company. And he said after 5 minutes, forget your system, throw it away.
Okay.
You have never done the necessary investment in this area. Please, dear friends, we have to be aware that some others would like to know what we know, that we would like to know our plans. That is politics, it's security, that some would like to even to win a war with this. Others want to profit from economical standpoint. We have to do much more in this field, and we have to take it seriously. That's my answer.
Okay, so just esto ya lo cortamos. Just the final. I would like to know in which way do you think that foundations like Foro de Foros can help shape civil society and create debate?
Concentrate yourself, what I call, on real subjects, on key subjects. Invite, do it in an intergenerational way, as you do it here, and try to explain it to what I call to the society as a whole. Explain, communicate. Explain to people in a way that people understand it. And don't go into, let's say, in a language that normal people do not understand. This is for me a key. We have to do and to discuss much more than in the past in society. But where society begins, you have to go into universities, much more. I see this in universities where I teach. We are still too much in theory. We have to explain these major societal subjects to students. We have to do it in schools. We have to do it within vocational training. We have to explain it so that people become more and more aware of what's really going on. We have to help our representative democracies really to be able to fulfill these challenges, these tasks.
Thank you very much.